Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 4th through 10th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 2 shows, I watched 1 movie, sort of, and I listened to 1 book. I feel like I'm saying this more often more recently, but this is not my normal filming location. This is actually the studios of Foxglove Hollow, which is an artist studio run by my Auntie Anne. I will link her socials down below. Basically, we're staying at theirs this weekend and I didn't want everyone to have to hear me yammering on, so I secluded myself into the studio. Coffee. The first book I finished this week is Triggers, How We Can Stop Reacting and Start Healing. This is a book about triggers, what kind of causes them, basic information about that, and some coping strategies. This is a subject I'm kind of interested in on kind of like an academic level because of what I do and because I do want to be conscious of triggers when I'm talking about different media to people, but at the same time I'm so scared that I'm going to miss a potential trigger because it's not something I would have thought of as being a trigger, which is why I don't typically do trigger warnings, but I have resources for that linked down below. And then also there are some patterns in my own life where all of a sudden I get really angry and it's like, but why did that happen? I don't know. I can say that if you are a spiritual type of person, this book will probably speak more to you than it did to me, because in my brain, if somebody is spiritual, maybe they can bring triggers into kind of a spiritual practice or whatever, but because I'm not spiritual whatsoever, every time it talked about that aspect of it, I was like, that has nothing to do with the topic I came here for. So yeah, this book was okay, but I don't know if it's something I would necessarily be like, this is definitely something to read on the topic. Another book that I finished this week is I'm Engaged to Mothman. This is the second in the Mothman in Love series, and it's just delightful. Essentially, in our first book, we're following this girl named Heather, who has been an online influencer for many, many, many years. She's 22 years old, she burns out, and she decides to just buy a cabin in the woods. And when she's there, she meets Mothman, they fall in love. That's essentially what happens in the first one. Like, much more happens than that, but that's the basic premise. And this is a continuation of their story, and it goes to a completely different place. And although we can guess what happens with their relationship based on the fact that, you know, it's right in the title, that's not something that happens until pretty much the end of the book. The third book in this series is I'm Getting Married to Mothman, and I do also have access to that one, so I will be reading that within the next month or so. I really like this book. We got to meet a whole new cast of characters and kind of see how they interacted with each other. Our main character is living with a chronic illness, and she tends to be a people pleaser, and that doesn't really go well very often. And then Moth is just such a delightful cinnamon roll of a protector boyfriend, and it's just wonderful times. As for the shows I watched just over a season of Criminal Minds. I started on episode 23 of season 6, and I finished up episode 24 of season 7, which is the end of season 7, which means that in a month and a half or so I've watched 7 seasons of this show. We are getting more into the territory of things I have never seen, and definitely there's plot lines that I'm just like, oh, that happens? Okay, didn't know about that, but here we are. And at the end of this season, we know that somebody is going to leave, and I knew that she was eventually going to leave because she's not in the promo material. When I go into the streaming platform to actually turn it on, it's somebody else who looks like her, because the thing with this show is, if somebody from the main cast leaves, they're always replaced with somebody with the same hair color. I don't know if that was intentional, but that's definitely exactly what has happened every single time. So I knew she was gonna go eventually, and I guess I've gotten to that point, but I'm sure that she'll pop back in every once in a while because it's not like she's leaving law enforcement altogether. The other show I watched is a couple more episodes of Doctor Who. We are near the end of the 3rd season, and it was a 2-parter, so that worked out nicely. This is also the introduction of a character called the Master, and I spent a lot of time staring at the, let's call it the regenerated version of this character, because I was like, why do I know that random British man's face? And it's because I once upon a time did watch all of Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, so yeah, he's the main character, at least one of those. I can't remember what Ashes to Ashes deal was, but I remember Life on Mars. Like, I remember what was going on, and I remember that was the follow-up to it. So, like, he was definitely the main character in one. Was he even in the other? I can't remember because I watched it, like, over a decade ago. Needless to say, we're not gonna, like, catch up to modern day on Doctor Who anytime soon because I keep watching a completely different show. But we are enjoying Doctor Who when we do actually get around to watching it together. As for the movies I watched, basically my uncle has been watching all of the Avengers movies this weekend, and I've seen bits and pieces of a bunch of them. However, the only one that I sat all the way through is Endgame. We watched Avengers Endgame last night, and it's a ton of fun because there is so much in this Marvel Cinematic Universe that I cannot tell you what happens in what movie and what is going on. And sometimes they'll be like, how come that character has this attribute, or this is a thing that happens, and you're just like, I don't remember. It's fine. But it was fun to go back to this and kind of remember how I felt at the end of the movie previous to this, and then watching this one in theater as well, and just like the opening and just like there was a lot of emotions to be had in this movie, so I'm glad that I got to experience that again. As for the audiobook I listened to this week, that was Cut Loose, which is the second in the Chance to Fly series. Our main character in this one is Nat. She is going to a completely new school, and she found out quite recently that all of the schools that do musicals will be competing because one of the musical numbers from those musicals will actually be going to Broadway. The biggest problem with this is all the people with whom she did Wicked in the summertime go to 2 different schools, so they're actually competing. Not to mention there's definitely some stress around the fact that she is going to a new school. She doesn't have classes with the people that actually go to her school, and people have their own lives, and sometimes the communication is not great, so it's a tough time. However, I can report I was of course correct. The musical that they are doing in this one is Footloose. And she of course wants to get the lead girl role with her boyfriend Malik because that would just be so cute. And then it goes from there, but definitely not the way that she would have preferred. I thought this was absolutely delightful, and honestly I could take 10 more books in this series. I would actually love to see this character go all the way through graduating high school and then go off to live her Broadway dreams. I would absolutely adore that. These 2 books in the series are the only ones so far, and they seem to have come out about 2 years apart, so maybe next year we'll get a 3rd one. I would be so excited. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!